How do we just strengthen this team so that if Kyler Murray does have an off day, or if he is average, like in some of the Cardinal losses this year, the team can find a way to get it done, right? And it's not, I don't want to say like make this roster Kyler Murray proof, but be able to get Kyler over the hump when he doesn't have the Jets game or the Bears game or the first Rams game, right? Like there are a lot of quarterbacks who benefit from that.
Taking a look back at the 2024 season and this past year, Johnny Venerable, has to be the floor for Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. As we recap things, make sure you like this video, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. And Johnny, when we look at Kyler Murray's entire season as a whole, 21 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns, up there, what was it, about 3,800 yards passing, over 500, nearly 600 yards rushing. How do you kind of quantify the Cards franchise quarterback's last campaign?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't want to say it's the bare minimum, but certainly it feels like it's a disappointment given where we expected him to be. I've been on the record many times on this show. I think you also supported the notion that if Kyler Murray plays all 17 games, he's going to put up robust statistics because that's what he's always done in Arizona. And I kind of laugh at the fallacy that, well, Kyler Murray shrinks in big games. He just hasn't been available enough in November and December to play in these big games. Well, we got that this year, and he came up short. I think, moving into 2025 now, like what's the baseline for him to be able to remain the Cardinals quarterback, get this team to the postseason? I look at a guy, Bo, like Jordan Love, 25 passing touchdowns this year, just enough to get his team to the postseason. Granted, he missed a couple games, right?
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, what he was able to do through the air. I think the baseline for Kyler Murray through 21 touchdowns, and some of that was kind of faux cotton candy touchdowns in the finale against San Francisco. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. He went into the finale with 17 passing touchdowns. It's just not good enough, right? Matthew Stafford had, low 20 passing touchdowns, but he sat the finale. By statistics alone, Kyler Murray needs to be in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 passing touchdowns next year. I think if he's in the low 20s again, regardless of the rushing statistics, which are helpful, but at the same time, when you have investments in Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, friend of the program, you got to be in the neighborhood of at least 25 plus passing touchdowns. And I think that's enough to be able to get this team back into the postseason.
Yeah, I think I'm willing to give the franchise quarterback the grace of being in his first full season in Drew Petzing's system. And that duo right there, that tandem of Petzing and Kyler Murray, I think have a lot to prove, as do the entire team in year 3. Like, you're going to need to see a jump statistically. And I agree with you. It's like where he needs to kind of live statistically, especially with the playmakers that he has in place. Like, they're going to do some things this offseason, but as far as like the key guys, they're in place. James Conner in the run game. Trey McBride is your top, your tight end. Marvin Harrison Jr. is an ascending player, is your top wide receiver there. Michael Wilson as your Z receiver. Like, it's all there. And of course, your franchise left tackle, and then just fill in the gaps elsewhere. And Kyler Murray, of course, there, I look at it as a kind of a case by case basis, week by week. And if you break it down week by week, I think you see 5 exceptional performances from Kyler Murray this season, right? I mean, you can kind of debate whether or not what we rank as exceptional, but I think you can look at it statistically and take out, even the finale, like what was on the line, what wasn't on the line.
Right.
But I think he had 5 performances you look at, quarterback rating over 100. The numbers are gaudy. And then you have one game, in my opinion, that Kyler Murray on his own lost this team. One game where it was the Seattle game. They go up 7-0. Kyler Murray throws back-to-back picks and puts the Seattle Seahawks in a position to take the lead, never look back, right? And Kyler was hard on himself in the postgame in that one. And then like 11 ho-hum, pretty pedestrian performances. Nothing like, hey, damn, he was so bad, or like, oh my God, like he wasn't the reason that they lost. But I think that they were 11, fine performances where I think you need to continue to kind of the pendulum needs to sway in the direction of more, and hopefully with a better supporting cast. But still, if Kyler Murray elevates his game and that goes from, say, 5 to 7 to 8, there's no doubt about it. This team's a playoff team next season.
I want to throw some more numbers at you because I think they're pretty telling this year. So of the top 12 quarterbacks in passing touchdowns this year, 11 of them made the postseason. The outlier, Aaron Rodgers, somehow threw the quietest 28 touchdowns you've ever seen in the
Yeah.
NFL. But 21 tied for 13th. Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, both out of the playoffs. 23 and up. If you threw 23 touchdowns and more, you made the playoffs. Sans for Aaron Rodgers. But here's what I think is interesting. If you do a little bit more of a deep dive, Bo, into some of these quarterbacks that made the playoffs without gaudy numbers, CJ Stroud, 20 touchdowns. He's got a good team around him, bad division. Jalen Hurts, right? 18 touchdowns. Common denominator there. Great team. Russell Wilson, 16 passing touchdowns combined with what Fields did. Really good defense. Infrastructure is there. I think if you're Jonathan Gannon, the mantra, and I believe that this is what the Cardinals plan to do, and I think it echoes JG's comments, Bo, at the end of the year. How do we just strengthen this team so that if Kyler Murray does have an off day, or if he is average, like in some of the Cardinal losses this year, the team can find a way to get it done, right? And it's not, I don't want to say like make this roster Kyler Murray proof, but be able to get Kyler over the hump when he doesn't have the Jets game or the Bears game or the first Rams game, right? Like there are a lot of quarterbacks who benefit from that. Now, if you want to have a separate conversation of, well, can you win a Super Bowl like that with Kyler Murray? You know, I think the optics on that are not great, right? TBD. But in terms of like getting this team to consistent postseason appearances, and maybe Kyler Murray gets hot and he can pitch a perfect game in the playoffs, you know, for lack of a better term, maybe that happens. But I think it's about fortifying the roster enough, getting more cracks at the plate with turnovers and sacks defensively. And this team ought to be able to get to double-digit wins in 2025. They better.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, as Michael Wilson told us himself, like this is kind of an all-in season coming up for them where all the chips are pushed to the middle of the table. And that goes for Kyler, that goes for the coaching staff, goes for the front office. And I think that, you know, they didn't put like an immense amount of pressure, but in the NFL, the pressure is always there. And now they don't have the luxury of, hey, they're new, I'm going to let them cook. And I think, you know, a credit, and he doesn't often get this, Michael Bidwell, credit to him for putting his football personnel, you know, department in place and then letting Monty and JG do their thing. Now it's like, okay, they're going to have to reward him by getting themselves back to the playoffs. And that falls a lot on the franchise quarterback's shoulders. And I think when we start to everything we've been talking about as far as the stats and where they need to go, it has to be a similar. I'm not talking about like, because what Lamar Jackson did this season was truly special. Yeah. I mean, it was like nearly 50 total touchdowns and 4 picks. It was, it was a freak show, but he had 29 total touchdowns last year. Kyler Murray had 26 total touchdowns this year. Am I right with that? 21 in 5. Kyler Murray, I think if he easily eclipses 30, maybe approaches 35, that's enough for this offense to do what it needs to do. And I completely agree with you. Like, you do him a service by like really building on this defense this offseason and creating those opportunities by getting off the field in a lot quicker fashion, whether that's 3 and outs or turnovers. I think creating those opportunities for this offense is just going to give them a potential to cash in way more than they did in 2024.
I mean, you look at Geno Smith, modest numbers, defensive head coach, though, overachieved 10 wins. You look at Sean McVay that won the tiebreaker over Seattle, common denominator there, defensive, you know, juggernaut this year led by Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and, you know, explosives, you know, offensively when they needed them from Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford. Like, this was a division in 2024. You make an argument. It was a defensive division. And I think we have an opportunity to see that kind of moving forward. Like, I don't expect Seattle to change things overnight, change their stars. Stafford is kind of what he is right now. He can have a big game, but he also can be erratic. I think the Cardinals, like, the writing on the wall is the offense is what it is. They're hopefully going to evolve, make a couple more plays here and there, but the Cardinals need to do themselves a favor and push their chips in defensively to get themselves younger and more athletic so that you can win games 14-10 if you have to, or 21-17. I think, you know, we were dealt a little bit, maybe this is our own expectations and shame on us, some fool's gold as it relates to maybe every game is going to look like the Miami game, right? And they're going to win shootouts and they're going to go score for score. I don't think that's how this Cardinal team is built. I think it's built on sound special teams, ball control, an occasional special game or two by your quarterback, and then hopefully a defense that can take the next step with Nick Ross, and then of course Jonathan Gannon at head coach. And again, we're 2 months away from them really being able to put their mark on this defense come free agency, Bo.
Yeah, and to really kind of put in perspective, if this is the floor for Kyler Murray, it's not bad. I mean, especially with
it's why he'll be their quarterback next year.
That's why he absolutely will be their quarterback. That's why I think it's less far-fetched to think about, even though there's those haters out there. They're especially far too often post by. It was a good day to be a Kyler Murray hater, unfortunately, but it's less far-fetched than some of the success stories that we've seen in recent NFL history, from Sam Darnold with 35 passing touchdowns this season, leading a team to 14 wins, to Baker Mayfield putting up back-to-back, really strong campaigns, getting guys hired all across the league. It's way less far-fetched than if you were to say, hey, Baker Mayfield's going to come in and he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's really going to steady the ship there and be outstanding. And oh yeah, remember Sam Darnold, draft bust? He's gonna throw for 35 touchdowns and win 14 games as a starting quarterback. You'd be like, hell, what do you want, sir?
Yeah.
So this is where I think that Kyler Murray has the benefit of, he doesn't have that much ground to cover. It's just a matter of tweaking and performing and executing and producing just a little bit more to get his team over the hump.
What do you believe the floor is for Kyler Murray, and what does he need to do in 2025 to get this team back in the playoffs? Subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Drop a comment, leave a like.